Thank you for joining me as I introduce Peter Anih, the Chief Technology Officer at Dynanet Corporation. We both participated in the same leadership development program in 2018, and we try to keep in touch, but as you know, COVID is going on right now, and so that makes it tougher than usual. But I want to thank you for joining me today, Peter. I'm so happy to reconnect with you. It's been a while.
Yeah, man, you too. Great seeing you.
So for those who don't know you, and there's probably many who don't, tell them a bit
Sure.
about you. What's your background? Where do you come from? And what do you do?
So I am originally from Rochester, New York, Western New York. People are familiar with Buffalo. Go Bills, big Bills fan. That's where I grew up. Both my parents went to Rochester Institute of Technology. That's where they met. I was there for 17, 18 years. Cold, long winters. It was something, but it was a fun time. Wanted to leave that cold climate, and so was looking at schools that were either out west or down south when I was looking for colleges. Also wanted to play soccer. So my father's from Nigeria. He actually played on the Nigerian national team. When he came over, he actually played on the RIT team as well, and that was something I was very passionate about. Grew up playing soccer my whole childhood. So I applied to a bunch of schools that had fairly decent, D1, D2 soccer programs. I got into Virginia Tech primarily on my academics. They were a D1 school in the Big East at the time, one of the better conferences. But really had an awesome time at Virginia Tech, and my focus was technology. I know that some of the questions that you have are, how do people get into technology? And for me, it was my father. So he actually came to the United States and pursued a career in the medical field. He was a clinical phlebotomist, basically a blood scientist, if you will. And when he was growing up in Nigeria, they were always about become a doctor, become a doctor, become a doctor. That's how you get wealthy and successful. So that was kind of his passion, and he pursued the medical field. But when I was growing up, he was always saying computers are the key, man. Computers is the future. And he bought our family a computer when I was very young, and he was tinkering with it. And I just always was around technology. I understood it. I liked it. Getting older, I played video games, enjoyed that. So I knew that I wanted to do something in the technology field. Now, whether it was a developer or a systems engineer or a hardware person, or, I didn't quite know that, but I knew I wanted to do something in the technology field. So Virginia Tech, went there, started in computer engineering. And at the time, computer engineering at Virginia Tech was very heavily focused on hardware design, chipsets, doing a lot of that stuff. And it was interesting, but I knew that that's not exactly where I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to be in the technology field, but I didn't always want to sit in front of a screen and be on a keyboard all day. So I was in a class one day, met with my advisor after that class, and he and I were talking. I was, computer engineering is fun. It's good. This is my junior year, but I wasn't quite sure if this was a path that I wanted to take. And he's like, well, you know what, Peter? He's like, you actually have a decent presence. You can talk, you can communicate. Like, you should probably also do something in the business world where you can reach out to people, mentor, help companies grow, help people grow. And they had a path where you could actually minor in computer science and business. So I did that. It was like a hybrid degree. It was 2 minors that equated to that major, and I did that, and I loved it. For the computer science half of it, I had most of the classes completed, so I had to take the business classes, so management, marketing, accounting, finance. Got through it and loved it, loved every minute of it. And I ended up getting recruited by CGI, and CGI, that's Legato Drive here in Fairfax, Virginia, was my very first gig as an IT consultant. And that's kind of where I started down the path of this technology world.
Wow, that's interesting. I had never even heard of a degree that had a mixture of both. I would have jumped at that in a heartbeat, because by the time I did my degree, I was already in the career. So
yeah,
I already see where the business aspect of that would be very beneficial.
Yeah,
Especially if you're doing
it was
IT
cool
consulting.
because Yeah, exactly. I mean, in a lot of what I've done in the past and what I'm doing now, yes, I do need to use my technical knowledge, my technical acumen, but a lot of it is just talking with people, whether it's our federal customers, whether it's partners and other people in the industry, or even just colleagues who I work with at my company, and just understanding, what we want to do, what makes sense, what the path forward should be. And a lot of that, I did learn in those business classes and understanding how to navigate that business world and having that kind of business mindset.
Interesting. And so you're the chief technology officer. So
And
that's a big title, right?
sure.
What does that mean? I mean, many people probably they're starting out in their career. They've heard of that, right? They've heard of it. They've
Yep.
definitely heard of CIOs, chief
Yep.
information, but they may not know the difference. So explain that a little bit. I think that'd be interesting for somebody who's trying to consider going into a career in IT.
Great question. Great question. So I knew that I wanted to be not only in the technology field and the technology world, but I wanted to be a leader. Ever since I was younger, going back again to my soccer playing days, I was a team captain. In high school, I was class president. At Virginia Tech, my freshman year, I was actually president of my dorm, Pritchard Dorm, which at the time was the largest all male dorm on the East Coast. I don't know if that's a great thing or not, but that was my cross to bear at the time for that year. So I knew that when I went into the technology field, I wanted to research and understand what the different leadership roles were when it comes to, leader in technology. And exactly, you hit the nail on the head, CIO. So everybody knows Chief Information Officer. Typically that's the head person in organization when it comes to technology. And that's really where my mind frame was coming out of tech, starting at CGI was eventually I want to be a CIO. And I got to a company called AgileX, where they had a CTO named Tim Hakes, awesome guy, a mentor to me, definitely. And I told him one day that, I would like to be, at the time I was a systems engineer, just consulting on different types of technologies that we offered and helping our customers implement them. I was like, I want to be a CIO one day. And he's like, well, why a CIO? And I was like, well, that's the highest technology person in a company. And he's like, well, not necessarily. He's like, it just depends on the organization and the company. Anything can really be the highest, right, technology person. But as a CIO, he kind of defined it to me as the CIO is a person from like a data management perspective, from a cybersecurity perspective, from a lot of the nuts and bolts and blocking and tackling when it comes to technology in an organization. That really is kind of the CIO shoulders. And for the CTO, and again, of course, everybody has their own definition.
Sure.
He said that is the person in an organization that can really set technical direction, make sure things are being executed and implemented from a technology standpoint. They typically have the authority to, try new things and see if they work. And they can help with that vision that the CIO has, but also from a technology and an implementation and a doing perspective, that's what the CTO does. So when I met with Sean PA, the CEO of Dynanet, and Bill Gillen, the COO, I was like, I want to be the CTO of Dynanet when we were talking about the role. And again, I laid out to them what I thought the CTO of a company like Dynanet at the time should look like and what that person should be responsible for, what should fall underneath them, how I should be interacting with Sean as the CEO, Bill as the COO, and then Jake, who's our CFO, and as a C-suite leadership team, what that looks like. And they agreed. And thankfully, the vision I had was similar to the vision that they had for a CTO. And I started over there just going on 3 years ago now, and I'm loving every day of it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's something for people to consider, right? There are different leadership roles,
They
even
are.
one layer below that, right? There's the different
Yeah.
areas of IT, and each of them have a leader running those areas. And so it's something to consider as you think about a career. So what you mentioned your mom also having gone to the technical school, did she in a technical field as well then?
She was. So when she graduated, she worked for Xerox. Xerox, Kodak, and Bausch and Lomb were the three biggies in Rochester when I was growing up. and she actually helped design photocopiers for copy machines
Oh, wow.
and the components inside of the copying machine and all that. So she actually helped design the chemicals. She went for chemical engineering at RIT that created the photocopies. So she did that for a long time in my childhood, and then she eventually kind of rose through the ranks and became management and started directing people. And she actually ended up being on the purchasing side of the house, so understanding what type of raw materials go into creating those types of things for copiers. So yeah, it was technical. It was a different kind of technical. RIT is a great school. My youngest sister actually graduated from RIT. My father was very adamant for me to go to RIT. He actually applied for me to go to RIT, and I, unknowing to myself, I received my acceptance letter. And I was like, what is this? And my dad was like, oh yeah, I applied for you, because he was, at the time, he was on the alumni board. Very, very passionate about RIT. But again, I went to Virginia Tech and super happy about that.
So that's really funny. What parents do, right, to try to help their kids.
Hey, just a little nudge, a little wink, wink. Like, Dad, no, I'm getting out of this cold. I'm going. I go to Blacksburg in the mountains, and it's still cold. So I don't know if that was a great choice, but.
So if somebody came to you and said, Peter, you have the power today. Today you have the power. What is it that you think within our IT community, the way we do IT or even technology, whatever, what is it you think we should change the way we do today?
So I know we're starting to do this in pockets in areas of IT, but it's really about people feeling that they're locked in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go down, and I'll throw out some technologies, if you go down an AWS public cloud route, then you have to stay with them, or Google public cloud, or if you're a Microsoft shop, or if you're an open source shop, and we just have to stay. A lot of these artificial barriers people put on themselves, technologists and technology leaders put on themselves, to be quite candid, it's because it's easier, right? It's, if you can just kind of stay down that same path and figure it out, it might not be in the best interest of your organization. It might not be in the best interest of the mission that you're supporting, but it is probably the easiest. People kind of tend to stay down that lane. And a lot of customers that I speak with who are thinking about either modernizing out of legacy systems and legacy infrastructures, or going to a newer technology platform, that's one of the first questions that I ask them is, why now? Why are you looking to get out of wherever you're at and move towards something that's new or different? And there's a bunch of different reasons: cost, capability, ability to scale, of course, security. But one of the things that I want people to try, in the IT community, to try to get over is just thinking that you have to stick with whatever type of technology platform that you're on, or whatever type of technology that you're using. Not necessarily to rip and replace, but more so to always kind of keep an open mind as to what's out there and what can benefit you or your organization or your mission more efficiently, going forward.
Hmm. Well, that's something my fellow government people should take to heart, for sure. We're probably the
I'm
worst.
not calling anybody out.
No, I know you're not. I am. We're probably the worst at that at times, right? Because we there's staffing challenges with that. There's training challenges with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if what you're currently struggling with on a day-to-day basis isn't getting the job done, you're absolutely right. We need to somehow open up, be a little more open-minded, and consider an alternative. Interesting.
Yeah, and even on the private side of the house, for an organization, for a company, there's a lot. To be honest with you, there's a lot of antiquated back office systems that we have and we use, and I've seen this at a bunch of different companies that I've been at, and it's the same story. It's because it's easier for the accounting people, or it's easier for the HR people, and they know it, and just don't touch it, don't break it. It's the way it is, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. So those are, even in the private sector, I want to challenge, my colleagues and peers that, look and see what you're doing from a technical perspective, and can you update, can you modernize, and honestly, maybe what you're doing is working and you don't need to, and that's fine as well.
At least until it breaks.
Yeah, until it breaks, and you got to figure it out.
Right. All right. So where do you see yourself, or where do you see, Dynanet, or just the kind of work you're involved in? Where do you see that going? Where are we at now, and where do you see that going in the future?
Well, the growth of the company since I started has been incredible. From a revenue perspective, I think we've more than doubled, or almost doubled, close to that. From an employee count, similar numbers. And again, I came on board to Dynanet to really start to move them towards some of these advanced technologies. When you talk about cloud, containerization, microservices, DevSecOps. So we are doing that in spades, and that's extremely exciting to myself, because as I mentioned, before, that was my plan, that was my grand plan, but you never know if it's going to come to fruition, and it has. So as a company, Dynanet is just growing leaps and bounds, and every day that I get to interact with my fellow coworkers and my leadership team, is truly a blessing. I've brought on some really, really great people, who are definitely the reasons why we're having such tremendous growth. And I see, hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, we continue that trend, and the company keeps on growing and getting into new areas and new things where we can help support our customers. As far as technology and where that goes, my father told me a long time ago, never try to predict what technology is going to do and where it's going to go. I just hope, kind of similar to my last thought, that the new capabilities and technologies that come out, and services that come out, people look at them with a fresh eye and consider, does it make sense to try to go down a new path? And if so, what does that look like for them and their organization? But I'm really, really excited about just all of the cloud capabilities and the microservices containerization capabilities when it comes to application development and automation. We've done a couple of RPA projects that have been really, really fun, and seeing what that looks like to start to repurpose folks and retool folks, and the manual mundane processes that they would do from like a manual data entry to now a bot can do that, and they can do more efficient work that's going to be helping and more beneficial to the organization is awesome, and it's great.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Well, I thank you for coming by today, for taking time out of your busy, important day, and and I thank you for reconnecting.
Anytime for you, bro. You know that. Come on.
All right. So, but thank you, and I look forward to talking to you again, maybe in the future.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to it. Thank you.